Welcome to Miss Annette's little farm in the big city. How are you? I hope you're doing well. I am just busy doing a few things around here on the little farm, and we can talk about that in a second. Let's start this video by saying thank you. I want to thank you for your kind comments, for all the love and the support that you have given me and the little farm this past week or so since we lost our little Leche. And I wanted to give you an update on Dulce. So far, she's doing okay. We are keeping a really close eye on her. We're keeping an eye on how much she's eating, how much if she's active or not active, or if there's any change in her behavior. We are keeping a very close eye on her. We have not made any decisions on getting her a companion yet, because that could be very complicated, because we could get her a companion, and how about if they're not compatible? And then we have two goats that aren't compatible, so that would be really hard. So we're thinking about it, but so far she's doing really well. She's enjoying these bright sunny days. We made a tether for her out so she can be out here in the yard. I don't know why I hadn't thought of this before, but we tether them when we take them on school field trips. And I never thought of it until a couple of days ago, and I thought, well, we could tether her in the backyard, and that way she doesn't get into anything that I don't want her to get into, and she can still get out of the paddock. So we tried that, and that worked pretty good, except she gets really tangled. So you still have to kind of keep an eye on her, but I think she enjoyed it. So we're going to be doing that a lot more, getting her out and letting her have a little more freedom out of the paddock. But so far she doesn't seem to mind it. As a matter of fact, right now she's laying on her pillows in the sun. Enjoying this beautiful warm day. Well, you saw me up there on the ladder, up on the fence, trying to get this down. This is Virginia creeper. And I thought, since I was doing that and I have some things to plant today, I thought that you and I could go around the garden and I could show you 10 things that you should plant with caution. All right, so I'm going to need a few tools to get started as I show you all of these plants that you must plant with caution. I need my clippers. So I have these little clippers here, and I have these bigger ones for the bigger, woodier things. And then I have, I left it up here, hang on. I have my vinegar, and this is industrial vinegar with water, mixed with water, and this will kill things that you don't want to grow in certain places. And I have my Costco bucket. I got these buckets. I have lots of buckets, but I like to have a 5-gallon bucket for all sorts of things. And this is what I like to put these things in. Now this is Virginia creeper, and we will talk about that in a little bit. But I like to, these weeds, or they're not weeds, but these plants that I'm talking to you about today, I don't like to put them in my compost because they're so prolific that they will, if I use my compost anywhere else, they may grow somewhere. because they might start growing in the compost as well, and I don't want that. So what I do with specific weeds that I don't want to grow, or weeds that have seeds on them, I put them in my bucket and I will throw them in the trash, or I will put them in the burn pile. And yes, we can burn things in the city at certain times of day. All right, so I have all my stuff. Now let's go get started with harvesting some of these plants. Trumpet vine, Campus grandiflower, is ecologically invasive in most of the United States. It's a native to the eastern and central regions. Its rampant growth, clinging aerial roots, and prolific suckering make it hard to control. It can damage fences, structures, and tear down fences. You can control trumpet vine by pruning it, removing the suckers, deadheading the seed pods, and spraying. In Latin America, it is not considered a threat, but it is concentrated in the highland areas. Our reading teepee is covered in trumpet vine, and it is beautiful when it blooms. And it's a perfect spot for the trumpet vine because it's nice and sunny and it has a place to grow. And I trim it back a little bit, and it can take a good trimming. But as you just saw me in the shade garden cutting the trumpet vine, it will grow everywhere. And once you plant it somewhere, it will go anywhere. And so when you plant it, you need to plant with caution. Virginia creeper is not considered invasive because it's a native to the North American continent, but it is extremely aggressive and it grows vigorously. It smothers plants and trees, and it can get into crevices of materials, potentially damaging them. You can control Virginia creeper by pulling and digging it out, and by spraying the stumps. In Europe and parts of Australia, it is considered an invasive plant. Honeysuckle, aggressive woody shrubs that leaf out and hold leaves longer than native vegetation, creating dense shade and depleting soil nutrients. Banned in many states, including Indiana. It can be controlled by hand pulling the seedlings, cutting the stems, and adding herbicide, removing during fall and winter. Honeysuckle is also considered an invasive in Australia, South America, in Europe, Argentina, Brazil, and parts of Africa. Rose of Sharon. The primary reason Rose of Sharon is deemed invasive is it produces hundreds of viable seeds that are easily spread, then create dense thickets that outcrowd other plants. And even though it's considered invasive, it is South Korea's national flower. You can control it by deadheading the flowers, pulling the seedlings, cutting and treating the stumps. Lemon balm, highly aggressive and considered invasive in many regions. It belongs to the mint family. It grows rapidly and spreads two ways: underground roots and by dropping hundreds of tiny seeds. It can become so dense that it robs other plants of sun and nutrients. It is not considered a threat in other countries because it's easy to remove. You can control it by planting it in containers, cutting off the flowers, and digging deep when removing it. This is the redbud tree, not an invasive species at all. It's native to eastern and central United States. The problem is it can self-seed, and it doesn't aggressively take over your yard, but it does plant seedlings everywhere. All the other countries love the redbud tree. You can control it by pulling the seedlings, cutting and spraying the base, and raking the seed pods and destroying them. This is personally not one of my favorite plants because it grows everywhere and always in a nook and cranny where you can't find it until it's almost too late. Creeping Jenny, also known as moneywort, highly invasive in parts of the U.S. It spreads rapidly by rooting at stem nodes and is extremely difficult to eradicate. It smothers other plants and spreads in waterways. In Canada and Australia, it has high potential to become a threat. To control it, you must pull it or smother it. And if you pull it, you must dispose of it, soil and all. Burning bush, aggressive, invasive, notorious for escaping into forests, displacing native vegetation. It creates dense wildlife choking thickets. It spreads by birds eating the seeds. It is banned or restricted in many United States. In other countries, Canada has banned it for sale in many of its states. To control it, you must pull young plants out of the ground. You need to cut down and treat with herbicide. We keep ours under control by cutting it and feeding it to the goats. As we've gone around and we've cut all these weeds, or I don't know just to call them weeds, but they kind of feel like weeds. They get a little carried away here in the garden, and they're not really very welcome here. And a lot of those things, like the honeysuckle and the redbud and something else, and a Virginia creeper, those were already here on the little farm, and we cut them back, and we've been cutting them back ever since, and that was 20 years ago. And when I was doing that, I was thinking about the plants that I planted that I was cutting back and moving and trying to keep under control. So the next generation for the house, they will be thinking about me in a way. They'll think, why did they plant so much Creeping Jenny and so much lemon balm? It's everywhere. You know what I mean? English ivy, highly invasive from Europe. It aggressively spreads and overtakes natural ecosystems. It causes damage to trees by blanketing the trunk blocking the sunlight. On the forest floor, it starves plants of sunlight as well. It can cause damage to buildings and harbor rodents and insects. In Australia, it is listed as an invasive weed. In New Zealand, it's listed as an environmental weed. In Canada, it's considered invasive and acts as a harmful pathogen host. It's also been documented in South Africa, India, Mexico, and Brazil. You control it by cutting at its base and letting it die before you pull it off. Bamboo, highly notorious for its invasiveness, specifically running bamboo. It aggressively sends rhizomes 10 feet a year, rapidly overtaking yards, destroying infrastructure, crowding out other plants. In the United Kingdom, running bamboo is a massive environmental and property crisis. It's also in Australia, Europe, and South Africa. You control it by installing root barriers, digging trenches, regular mowing and cutting, or completely kill by digging out. The bamboo makes a beautiful screen here on the little farm between us and the school next door. But to put it in, it took a lot of work. Mr. Steve, of course I didn't help, but he dug these huge trenches that were about 4 feet deep and about maybe 4 feet wide, all the way from that end to where the barn is to this end here. He dug those trenches and then he lined them with this rubber liner that was really thick. And he lined it so that the rhizomes of the bamboo would not escape. And that was a lot of work. And when we first got the bamboo, it was maybe just about this tall. It wasn't very tall at all. And now you can see that it is very, very tall, and it is a beautiful hedge between us and the school. But it requires work too, because sometimes the rhizomes do escape, and then Steve has to come out and he will cut them on the other side of the school and on the side here, just to keep them from going too crazy. So he works very hard at keeping the bamboo from invading the rest of the neighborhood. So we got a lot done today. And I'm so glad that you stopped by to help us figure all of this out. We learned a lot today. I did a lot of research to give you guys some information on all of these plants. Okay then, I've got to go get Dulce before she eats my geraniums, and I need to say bye. So I need to say bye before she gets into any kind of trouble. She's not as naughty as Leche, but she can get herself into trouble because she loves to eat my geraniums. And they were this big and now they're this little, so I gotta get an eye on her. Pip is upset because I have Aunt Bee here, and she's one of his favorites, but she needs some time off from Pip because she's kind of a little bit scabby from all of the attention he gives her. But she's such a sweet girl. She really is. I'm thinking about these plants as I'm pulling them and cutting them and trying to get rid of them, and thinking to myself, oh my goodness, how much time would I save if these plants were not in my yard? And I'm trying to have a better attitude about it. You know, at least it's getting me out, but you know, I could be working on something else. So these kind of plants, you really need to think about them when you're putting them in your garden or in your hardscape, because they can lead to a lot of trouble. She wants down. I'm going to put her down. So they can lead to a lot of work, and that's what these plants have caused a lot of extra work that I don't really want to spend time cutting and pulling things off of the fence and climbing a ladder to cut things back. I don't really want to spend my time like that. Now, some of these plants I did not plant. Some of these plants were plants that were here when we got here and that we'd taken out, like the honeysuckle and the Virginia creeper. We are constantly fighting, and the redbud. Those three were already here on the little farm, and we have been fighting them ever since we got here. I think the first thing that Steve did when he got here was cut down the honeysuckle because he said, no honeysuckle. And I, didn't know. I didn't know anything. I was just gardening so carelessly, I guess. But now I pay a little more attention. I pay a little more attention when I'm buying a plant. I'm paying a little more attention to how it will grow within the next 5 years. I'm paying a little more attention to what the plant needs and a little more attention to how much work it's going to be. And again, I want to thank you all so much for all the love and the support you have been giving us here on the little farm this last few weeks. Thank you so much. Thank you for stopping by here on Miss Annette's little farm in the big city. Try to get outside today if you can. Take care of yourself and take care of each other. And I will see you next time. Bye. Love you so much.